Two more aspects to consider. You are not a member of the committee, and so therefore you are not a member of the committee, and therefore this is the period where we are asking questions as a committee. Thank you very much. So we're moving on to the aspect. We're moving on to the second aspect that Councillor Ainsley has asked us to consider, which we are trying to do. And if we can't get round to it, then we would just go to a vote. But I would really rather that we answered Councillor Ainsley's questions.
Please, just no.
Thank you. Right, so the second aspect, now on it, is the consideration of the so-called People's Plan. It's
you can't call it so-called.
right. So, can we? You look at the aspect. When I asked Galinda on what basis it was called the People's Plan, because there aren't any details of who and how they were consulted, and therefore on what basis it was called the People's Plan, and that's why I'm calling it the so-called People's Plan. She said that officers had never asked that same, and I quote, very good question. So I'd be interested to know why that was the case. And the second aspect of it was that if we are asking residents to participate in a consultation process, then obviously they need the information required to participate fully in good time. And a number of the residents suggested that, particularly on the financial data, they only had a very limited period of time in which to consider it. So perhaps I can indulge me with those two as an opening gambit on the People's Plan. So the first one is why didn't officers establish the basis of how the People's Plan was formulated and who participated in it?
So through early on in the process, residents raised through the consultation process that there might be a document like the People's Plan coming through. We agreed that we would assess that in the same way that we were assessing the 5 options that the council was consulting on. We didn't make it a requirement at that point in time that the residents needed to evidence the level of support for that plan. We were just purely assessing the plan that was submitted to us.
Okay. Fair enough. And the fact that it's alleged that residents didn't feel they had long enough, weren't given long enough with the detailed information, particularly financial details, in order to make a informed contribution to the consultation.
Julian Hart, Estate Regeneration Programme Manager. There were some factual inaccuracies in Councillor Ainsley's original submission on this. The finance material was issued to residents on Sunday the 14th of February.
No, not the latest financials, only on Monday.
The finance workshop was held on Thursday the 18th of February. The original deadline for the end of the consultation process was Friday the 19th of February. In agreement with residents on the workshop on the 18th, we extended that deadline to Monday the 22nd of February. And on Monday the 22nd of February, we received a document with 100 questions from residents on the financial issues.
Okay. Does any other member of the committee have any questions on the proper or otherwise consideration of the People's Plan?
Yes.
Councillor Park.
Yeah. So, trying to replay some of the questions that residents raised. There was an allegation that the People's Plan financial model has not been fully evaluated by the council. I'd just like to know, is that true?
So we were clear that we would assess the People's Plan using the same approach that we would assess all of the 5 options. So we used the financial assumptions that we were applying to the other 5 options to the People's Plan. So therefore we didn't go into too great detail of assessing the financial information that was presented to us as part of the People's Plan.
And can I just supplement that? On page 109 of the larger pack, which is I think maybe the first, the original cabinet papers, there's the initial viability review exactly on
their own financial appraisals. We committed to carry out a financial assessment of their proposals in the same way that we've done the financial assessment of our own proposals. So rather than looking at their financial appraisals in the appendices to their people's plan and trying to go into the details of those, we took the basic input information and ran it through our own appraisal system in exactly the same way as we've done for the others. So what Neil was alluding to is that we've done the analysis of the proposal in the same way as that we've done the analysis on the other options. It's simply that we had not gone, because we received all the people's plan detail on the Friday, we needed to get it turned around by Monday, Tuesday next week. We did not go through an in-depth interrogation of that particular appendix that is included in the documentation in that time period.
Councillor Briggs. Sorry, Councillor Bennett wanted to add something.
Sorry, just very briefly, I was going to draw committee's attention on pages 66 and 67 of the main pack, which has the summary not only of the initial refurbishment and redevelopment reappraisals that were carried out in the Airy Miller reports, which can, I know, be quite difficult to interrogate at first, but they provide a summary of those indicating that they would not stack up, and it also runs through the alternative funding proposals that have been put forward and listed in the People's Plan on page 67, and kind of run through the issues and problems with those, so it would be helpful to draw it to committee's attention.
Thank you very much, Councillor Briggs.
I just wanted to get an answer to Councillor Ainsley's question when he said that they only have the residents only have between the 18th of February and the 19th of February, I think it was. It was the only time they had to evaluate the options that were provided to them. And I think he also said, Councillor Ainsley said that with regards to the financial viability, that they were given less, he calculated less than 20 hours. Is that correct? Sorry?
No, he just told you that, but anyway, you can tell him again.
So just to repeat what I said earlier, the financial material, financial information, the appraisals were issued to the residents on Sunday the 14th
No, they
of
weren't.
February.
It's Monday or Tuesday.
Followed by some data sheets that were sent through on the Monday, but the basic financial information was provided on Sunday the 14th.
No, that wasn't. It was numbers
The
based on
financial-
July.
The financial workshop was held on Thursday the 18th, so there's 4 days for people to look at it. I appreciate it's a relatively
People
short
have
time period.
jobs.
The original deadline was Friday the 19th, but we discussed at the workshop on Thursday the 18th, that clearly they hadn't had enough time, so we extended the deadline to Monday the 22nd. And to just confirm that on Monday the 22nd, we received a detailed document with over 100 questions from leaseholders on the estate.
Were they answered?
And this wasn't the options. This wasn't the first time people had seen the options. This was some of the financial data. People had longer to consider what the substantive options were, as I understood it. Yeah.
Nonetheless, it seems very strange to be so rigid about these time frames when people's homes are at stake. Why can't you just allow some reasonable period of time, negotiate with the representatives from the estate, so that everyone's comfortable, everyone's happy moving forward? Why impose these deadlines? For me, all these 3 questions that Councillor Ainsley's asking are all one of the same. Which I'll come to at the end.
Right. Yes. So ultimately, this all comes back to the ruling of the High Court, and this comes back to the requirement to set out in advance what the timetable was going to be and to stick rigidly to that timetable.
But then you extended it.
It was drifting from process in the first place that got the council into trouble last year, and given the experience of that and the uncertainty that produced for a lot of people that thought one way or another they then knew what was going on with their home, we felt we had to stick to the timetable that was set out at the beginning of January. At every stage through this part of the process, because of the uncertainty of the JR Code, of course, we didn't just take legal advice from within the council, we also took external legal advice from a barrister who understands and knows public law at each stage of this consultation and in the drafting of the cabinet papers to make sure that we didn't fall foul of those processes. But it did mean sticking to a rigid timetable.
Talking of timetables, I am running out of time, but go on then.
Because if you there's no court order that surely the court will set out that a timetable needs to be stuck to, but there's no way in which 2 parties negotiating with each other would be somehow restricted by an order which didn't set out in detail how those negotiations or how that timetable needed to take place. I mean, there may be statutory requirements, but I don't know, perhaps Greg can tell us, but I'm sure that if the parties negotiated, then half of these issues and the ill feeling would have been dealt with, because people would feel they had time to respond, that officers were listening to them, and that things were being dealt with properly.
They're not listening.
Okay, I think that's more a comment than a
No,
question.
it's a
And Councillor Morris has a couple
That's a
more
question.
questions.
It's a question.
Okay, fine.
I got
Councillor
Councillor
Morris.
Bennett.
Sorry, Councillor Bennett.
Councillor Bennett.
Can I
Well, okay, fine.
But there had to be a rigid timetable.
Well, so in terms of the length of time that we've been talking about this, I mean, this conversation has been kind of ongoing since 2012. There has been quite a lot of time for these conversations to take place in regards of the resumed. It is an answer, Councillor Briggs, and I mean,
Right, can he respond to your question, please? Thank you.
And in response to, in terms of the timetable, that timetable was put to a barrister who had studied the judicial review response and to check that this was a suitable and appropriate and robust process, and that was received, and that is the process that we followed.
Did you seek permission
Councillor
to